Welcome back to ChatChit. The round has just finished, round 5. We've just seen West Coast get their first win in quite a long time. They've hit 100 points for the first time in a year against a very, very awful Richmond team.
Very, very awful.
Very, very awful, in which the Swans lost to. But we'll get into that a little bit later. We'll jump straight into the top 5 players of the round. Kick us off.
Before I get off with my top 5 players, you know who the Swans didn't lose to?
Go on.
The bye. Couple upsets this week at the top of the ladder. I'd say the Swans beat the bye. But let's go.
You did say bye came at the right time.
Absolutely. Yeah, 2 pretty average games. Bye did come at the right time. My top 5, let's start off with my honourable mention. Jeremy Cameron. Kicked 6 goals, was unreal, 20 plus disposals. It's against North, it's boring, so I'm moving on. Was he in your top 5?
He was my number 5.
Talk about it.
But you know what? If he does against any other team besides West Coast in the competition, he's probably a lot higher in our top 5 rankings. But that's a really, really ill-talented North Melbourne defence.
Yeah, he's very... Actually, I want to say, in terms of talent, they showed quite a bit. I only was able to watch the first half, but they showed a lot in terms of big intercept marks, like as individuals. I saw Aiden take a big one. Charlie Comben has burst out in the last 2 weeks in a really rare way as like a real talent. Have you been able to watch both North games the last couple of weeks?
I haven't caught. I didn't catch the one today. I saw him last week.
Charlie Comben's amazing. He's not just getting in the right spots. He is strong, and he clearly just has a great knack for contests and taking big marks. He's going to be there for a while.
Do you remember my miss last week on North Melbourne?
The fact that they have not a single key defender.
They can't. But they can't deal with the tall forwards.
Yeah.
And again, one of them goes off today. But yeah, he was my number 5. We don't really have to speak too much about it. My honourable mention was Sam Walsh. I just wanted to say that he hasn't played footy in quite a long time.
Yeah. As a return game with no preseason.
As a return game, he was probably best on... Oh, no. Rankin was probably best on ground.
Speaking of, my number 5, Isaac Rankin.
That's fair enough.
Yeah.
Go on.
I thought he was fantastic, and it was a very smart move by Adelaide to give him more midfield time. Isaac Rankin is Dawson, when he's at his best, is their most skilled player, but other than that, Rankin's their silkiest, most smooth player. You want him getting the ball as much as possible. I reckon it's a good idea to give him half time in the midfield. Well, he got their most CBAs. He had 20 CBAs, pretty much every single one when he was not on the bench, and clearly Adelaide were looking to change something up, Matty Nix, and it was a great idea.
Well, him and Rochelle in the middle were great in that game.
Yeah, you got 3 goals, 20-something disposals, and it was just very, very damaging, as he always is. When you can get him in the contest entering 50, and then also get him up there at points of the game deep forward, it's a really good balance, I think.
I'll go into my number 4. I had Jake Waterman. This is the first positive thing we've said about West Coast all year, but he came up the ground, very similar to what Jeremy Cameron does. He had 6 goals by 3/4 time, and in a very, very, very weak forward line of West Coast. Darling is not an AFL level anymore. Without Oscar Allen, he really stood up today. In a game that was probably earmarked at the start of the season as one they could potentially win, someone stood up, and with the midfielders coming through, Yo, Reed, today were awesome. When they have a forward presenting at the ball and able to actually make the chances count, it makes a massive difference, as we saw on the scoreboard, 100 points for the first time in every year.
Yep. Yeah, you look around West Coast, and it's hard to sort of see a lot of players coming out at the end of the rebuild, but Jake Waterman's certainly one of them that you think could be a star by the end of this rebuild when West Coast eventually become competitive. I also had him at number 4. So I'll go into my number 3, which was another player on a dominant team in the league, Harry Sheezel.
Aren't you funny?
Yeah, I think Harry Sheezel, the commentators were talking about how they need to get him role-wise, eventually get him into the midfield, entering 50 more, because when he got a little bit higher up the ground for just a moment late in the first quarter, got 2 goal assists in a couple of minutes and just piercing kicks that were just on an absolute dime to guys on their chest. He is so talented at kicking the footy and with his vision, and he's very, very clean, and saw him get a lot of intercept possessions today as well, just putting himself in the right spot even though he's not big or physical. I thought he was great.
As in, just for me, I didn't have him in my top 5, and the reason behind that I just want to explain is because I just feel like his touches aren't as damaging as they could be, and yes, that's not his fault, it's the coach's fault. As a junior, he was a forward.
Yep.
He was but he's been put at halfback here. He's an elite halfback, but if he gets in the midfield, like you said, he went there for a few minutes, was incredibly damaging, then I can see myself seeing this guy as a top 5 player in the round when he does performances like this. Just for me, touches weren't as damaging as I'd like them to be.
Great day from the Shees.
My number 3 was Noah Anderson. So he's continued his form from the back end of last year. He was in my pyramid in the first week that we did this. He had a goal, 36 disposals, 6 clearances, 8 score involvements, and absolutely ran the game. It's exactly what we're looking for from Noah Anderson, especially when you've got guys like Raul who can get on the ground and win the ball, and they can get it to someone on the outside who can be bursting inside 50 and hit targets.
Noah Anderson was my number 1.
Number 1.
He was my number 1.
Fair. Didn't expect that. I thought there was a more clear number 1 this week, but maybe not. Maybe not.
I thought Noah Anderson was phenomenal, and yeah, the way that he plays when he has it all together, he's just so energetic, and so when he just puts it all together, he can just overpower another midfield. And yeah, as you say, when you play against Gold Coast, you can't pay attention to Noah Anderson. You can't tag him because you got Tuke Miller at his best, maybe arguably the best two-way runner in the league. And
second best.
Callum Mills?
No. Finney McGuinness, come on.
He's a one-way runner, just backwards.
Kicked 3 goals this week, shout out.
But, yeah, you got Tuke Miller there, and then you got Matt Rowell, who's burst out as one of the best midfielders in the league, and he'd be a Brownlow medal shout if there weren't so many strong players around him in that midfield.
Now, do you remember my shout-outs for potentially get that first All-Australian?
And you said Noah Anderson.
I did say Noah Anderson. We also said Isaac Quaynor, which isn't looking too good, but I said Noah Anderson.
Isaac Quaynor's been great. It's just you're not going to give it to him.
Yeah, but it's tough in a team like that, in a position that he's playing in.
Yeah, Collingwood would have to make a big bounce back for him to get a shout at that. But Noah Anderson, phenomenal. He tackles, he runs hard, he bursts out of packs, and he's got a really good kick too.
I'll go my number 2. I had Brad Hill at number 2. Now, from what we know, he's always been a runner. He's always been a great player, but he absolutely ran the game. They lost. Sinclair, Wanganeen, Malira, and Bonner were all very quiet, and he played about 50% off halfback, 50% on the wing, and was absolutely elite running through the ground against a very, very strong GWS midfield. He had 33 disposals, 24 of them kicks. 40% of his touches were in the forward half, a goal, 2 goal assists, 10 score involvements. Easily best on ground for me in that game, and was incredibly influential in that last quarter when St Kilda were bursting towards the final siren.
Love to see it. I didn't get to see enough of that game.
You would have loved it. I feel like because he's a guy that goes under the radar a lot.
Yeah, for sure.
And the commentators were raving about him all game as well. They could see the impact even before St Kilda were charging.
Love that. I don't have him in there.
Thank you.
At number 2, I have a midfielder who, at his best, is very, 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 very dominant, and that's Elliot Yeo. And it's been so good to see him, even though West Coast have been awful until the last couple of weeks. Throughout the whole season, he's just been really strong, returning to his role that he was in his heyday, where he was just a full-time midfielder, just so strong and hard to tackle. Just always finds a way to get rid of the ball, and can, someone that Noah Anderson could aspire to become was like a prime Elliot Yeo when he was an All-Australian. So that was a great performance from Elliot Yeo, and I have him at number 2.
I like it. I can't believe my number 1 is not on your list. I thought when we were talking about it before, and we don't tell each other who our top 5 are before we start, but I thought this guy was a clear number 1 in the round, and that's Cam Rayner.
Right.
Easily best on ground in the Brisbane-Melbourne game. The Demons had absolutely no answer to him coming up from half forward into the midfield. He had 9 clearances, 25 disposals, 10 inside 50s, 14 contested possessions, and he has damaging touches.
Yeah, I might have missed that one, but
the way we were watching the footy last night together, and you were predicting the Brownlow votes, and we both clearly said Cam Rayner number 3, not sure who gets 2 and 1 votes. So I was very surprised he didn't have him as your number 1, or at least in your top 5. And he was a clear number 1 for me this round.
He was very good.
Yeah.
He was, except Thursday was a long time ago.
Thursday
I don't really consider it this round.
That's okay.
Maybe he can be in my top 5 for last.
I'll give you that one. We'll move into what's becoming now a weekly segment. Is the quiz. The quiz for this week.
It's always a different quiz.
This quiz it's a top 6, and I'll explain why it's a top 6. It's the most All-Australian teams a player's made of active players. So we're looking at active players again. We have 6 players because 3 people are tied on the same in 4, 5, and 6.
Well, I'll get this in 6 guesses. I'll comfortably say Scott Pendlebury.
Scott Pendlebury is number 3, 6 All-Australians.
I'll say Patrick Dangerfield.
8 All-Australians, number 1.
Let's go with Lachie Neale.
Lachie Neale, no. Only 3 All-Australians.
Ooh, Nat Fyfe.
Nat Fyfe, 3 All-Australians.
Well, I'll get this in 6 guesses. Really good defenders. I know Tom Stewart has 4, not 5. It's Tom Hawkins.
Tom Hawkins has 5 All-Australians.
Okay. Jeremy Cameron.
Jeremy Cameron has 3 All-Australians.
Gosh. Dyson Heppel?
No,
dumb guess.
Hasn't got 3 All-Australians.
Dumb guess. Well, I'll get this in 6 guesses. Marcus Bontempelli.
5 All-Australians.
Okay, and there's one more?
There's one more.
How many do they have?
One more on 5, and there's one on 6.
Oh, because there's 6 people. I'll go with Dustin Martin.
4 All-Australians. Just misses out.
That's tough to take. Well, I'll get this in 6 guesses. This is going to be so dumb. Clayton Oliver.
3 All-Australians.
Traka.
No. 3 All-Australians.
Well, I'll get this in 6 guesses. Max Gawn.
Max Gawn has 6 All-Australians.
Wow.
Number 2.
Not a halfback. Who is it?
Tom Stewart.
Really good defenders. I know Tom Stewart has 4, not 5.
We'll move into our hits and misses in our next segment. Do you want to kick us off with the hits or the misses first?
Let's go hits first this time.
Hits first? Alright, I'll start. So my first hit was Chris Fagan's tactics in order to nullify Christian Petrarca. So what that was and what it looked like was a winger coming into the stoppage, every single stoppage, to tag Petrarca. So he didn't have a full-time tag, it was just in the stoppage when he's the most damaging. So that was either Fletcher or Berry. He was never free on a stoppage. And we saw that reflected in his stats after the game and Melbourne's overall performance. When he can't get going, because Gawn had a good game, but when Petrarca can't get going, they really struggle. So that was my first hit. Well done, Chris Fagan.
I like that a lot. Because Petrarca had a very, very quiet game. His first of the season, I'd say.
Yeah.
My first hit? Oh, how about you give us both your hits?
My second hit is the Essendon Edge. The Essendon Edge. They took the Bulldogs Stars.
And it was a miss last week.
It was a miss last week, and it was potentially a hit the week before. But they took the Bulldogs Stars out of the game, and they absolutely smashed them at clearance in this game. When the Bulldogs have an elite midfield, I know you don't like Treloar, but Bont and Libba are elite midfielders. They got absolutely smashed by probably a pretty undersized Essendon midfield.
Especially with Setterfield out.
Setterfield out. It was Merritt.
Perkins out as well.
Parrish still had a quiet game.
Very quiet. He's not looking at his best. He's looking quite slow.
Sam Durham was potentially going to be my honourable mention in the game.
Wow.
I loved his performance from the weekend.
And Jai Caldwell was very good.
Jai Caldwell was very good. Yeah, Essendon Edge is a hit.
Yeah, very good. My 2 hits. One was Adelaide mixing up the midfield. We touched on it earlier with Isaac Rankin. Adelaide able to pick up their first win in a huge game against Carlton at the G. And yeah, boy, did they need to change something. Because Kane Horn said something pretty brutal, which was like, if your midfield mix is just repetitively Dawson, Laird, Crouch, that's a shocking midfield mix. Which sounds jarring because
it is a lot of the same, isn't it?
Because they're 3 great players, but you have 3 guys, none of whom are above average quickness for a midfielder. None of whom have that trait that they can burst through stoppage.
I like it.
And none of whom really can get on the outside as with the way Dawson's playing this year and be a really damaging kick. The way Dawson's playing has not been a damaging kick.
I think Dawson being poor to start the year has put some cracks in that Adelaide midfield because it was just Crouch and Laird hand passing to Dawson at the back in the whole of last year, and that was working because Dawson could hit targets. But when he's not hitting targets, he's not even playing in the midfield anymore. As most recent game, it's needed some changes. Yeah,
we saw them give Dawson and give Crouch some time on the wing. Give Dawson barely played midfield, and we saw Isaac Rankin running through there, which we touched on.
He was awesome.
And Rochelle and
awesome
then
as well.
Fourth quarter, Sam Berry won them the game and had a huge fourth quarter.
Will probably start next week. I'm not sure for who though. That's the thing.
That's the difficult one. That is the difficult one. Matt Crouch has been good, except just with the mix of their team.
Potentially, but I'm hoping he stays because my Supercoach team is in tatters at the moment.
However, that was my first hit. My second hit was is also my favourite album by the Bee Gees, which is Saturday Night Fever.
Yeah.
And it's basically more just Saturday Fever, which was how many... we had 3 games separated by a total of 6 points on Saturday. Then there was also the Gold Coast Hawthorn game at People First Stadium.
People First.
It did not put the people first in terms of reviews, I think.
I was going to say that, but I just decided to stay away from it.
Yeah,
but yeah, I like that hit.
But the GWS St Kilda game, which suddenly looked like GWS were cruising and then suddenly became almost game of the round with an insane St Kilda comeback. And then the Adelaide Carlton game, Matthew Owies, what have you done? And then Port Fremantle was an absolute classic, which never felt like it was more than a 15-point margin throughout the whole game. So loved watching Saturday footy.
I like that. I'll move into my misses now. My first miss is how seriously we look at normal AFL acts when the head is in contact. So we were playing cards on Saturday night, and we had the footy on after the games, and we saw a crouch thing come up, and we saw Zach Butters come up as well, and it's purely normal AFL acts, and we saw the pundits, we'll say, really getting on the players for doing absolutely nothing wrong. I feel like it's making players scared to approach the contest at speed. Yep. Like, taking care of the opposition's head is very important, but I think we're going too far. Yeah. With the reviews as well. That's a bit ridiculous.
It was Zach Butters and Matt Crouch, I think, were the two.
Yeah.
Both head over the ball, got low, and
we're just stronger in the contest.
We're stronger and good. Put their it was both of them. It was their butts in a position where it hit the opposition's player's head.
It wasn't shoulder or anything.
Crouches that he has no case to answer for whatsoever. Should be the same case for Butters, except...
But we saw how... No, it's Crouch and Butters.
Yeah, so Crouch has no case to answer for. Butters, I think should be the same. However, people are saying because he came in with so much more energy. So now you're not allowed to come into a contest with energy to try to win the ball.
That's why, they're just taking away they're taking the AFL out of AFL, the intensity. Especially in that sort of game. There's never an excuse, but still, it was...
We understand the sensitivity.
If he misses a week for that and potentially can't win a Brownlow because of that, it'd be pretty awful to see, to be honest. I'll move on to my second miss, and it's St Kilda's inability to play 4 quarters. So, I'll just give you the last 3 weeks. They had 6 goals in the final quarter, 9 goals total in this most recent game. Last week, 6 goals in the third quarter, 9 goals total. 2 weeks ago, 4 goals in the first quarter, 9 goals total.
That's pulling out stats.
But seriously, they have one awesome quarter each week, and the rest are 1-2 goal quarters. The same repeats every single week. I don't know what it is, whether it's they just really push on and take risks in one quarter, another team decides to sit off. I can't exactly put my finger on what's causing that to happen.
At the same time, doesn't matter which way you split it amongst 4 quarters, 9 goals isn't good enough.
9 goals is very rarely going to win you a game.
Yeah.
And we commend Ross Lyon for his defensive tactics and his ability to keep teams out, which was the same last year. Defensive record was incredible, especially across the whole competition. But if you can't score goals, eventually you're going to concede. And 9 goals is never going to win you a game. Or very rarely going to win you a game.
Yeah. And even if it wins you just enough games to maybe get into the 8, which I don't think it does, it still, as I mentioned last week, St Kilda fans don't want to be just sneaking into the 8 now. They've had that for 4 or 5 years. They want to be competing. They don't care about this win half your games every year and maybe make the 8, maybe don't, and then get knocked out in the first round. I wouldn't want that if I'm a St Kilda fan. Okay, I'll go into my misses. One was the GWS injuries. Not much to say except with a team that's rolling so well, and honestly, even as a rival fan, the Sydney Swans fan, it's been awesome to see a team really burst out as such a dominant team. I don't think we've had a team dominating the regular season like this, and apart from that patch of Port last year, where they went on that run. But GWS seem to have everything going, and I kind of like just having that boss team that someone else has to really step up to beat them. I really like that, and I hope Sam Taylor and Cornelio recover as quickly as possible.
The positive we take is Cornelio didn't do his ACL. And for all money, it looked like he did his ACL.
I was positive.
It was an awful watch.
I'd not written it down. Cornelio's done his ACL, and good to see Sam Taylor seems stable as well.
He was talking in the changing room.
Yep, and no serious head or spinal injury.
So it'll be 2-3 weeks probably, maybe 4 weeks maximum, probably.
Seeing Sam Taylor's eyes roll in the back of his head.
That half a second we saw before they took it off the screen.
It was chills.
What was your other miss?
My other miss was Bevo.
Oh, Bevo. Bevo, what are you doing?
It was a miss for my Supercoach team subbing out
It's
Sanders.
a miss everyone's Supercoach team got Bevo.
But even much more. If I'm a Bulldogs fan, I'm calling for that guy to be sacked. Yes, there's the sentiment. You want the sentimental value. You won us a premiership, and we thank you permanently. Get the flip out of my team though, because it's everything. Riley Sanders is your player of the future, the guy that's going to lead your team, future captain, and you're pissing him off. Did you see how angry he was after he got subbed off? And this is not the first time he's been subbed off this year. And he's doing nothing. He's doing nothing to deserve it. He says Bevo says it's part of his development as a young player, and he knows that.
Let the man play.
Let the man play. He's finished off games well. He's clearly fit and has energy for all 4 quarters, and you're pissing him off. 2, you're making your sub experienced leaders like Jack McRae and Bailey Dale. Talk about discouraging guys that you want to be leading your team through the season, through a difficult patch. This is not the way to do it, to make them feel demeaned or not the player that they feel that they are. These are the experienced players that you're backing in the long term. Bailey Dale recently signed a long deal. He's been playing well, and suddenly you're like, oh, things aren't working well. Let's make Bailey Dale our sub.
Also, I feel like with a sub, you want real impact players that are quick on the ball. Jack McRae is just not that. Bailey Dale is not that.
Yep.
So if you're not going to play him, don't play him at all. Don't give him a sympathy sub.
Absolutely. Yeah, I don't like how Bevo's been managing that team.
You do know before the season, they changed almost every single other coach around him. Even the fitness coaches were changed.
He must have some charisma that he just has everyone in the club wrapped around his finger.
He's
or something.
in with the club CEO.
Something like
Yeah.
that. I reckon he caught the club CEO cheating on his wife or something.
He's got something on him.
Yeah,
He's
he's got something on him.
Surely. Anyways, we'll move on to everybody's favourite segment, I hope. The Footy Pyramid.
Very good.
Footy Pyramid. There's been some drastic changes again in the Footy Pyramid. Okay, we'll start with the usual. Players on the...
Just know, while you'll be talking, I'll be making complaints to Raise at the end.
That's okay. I don't think there'll be complaints this week.
There'll be complaints.
Okay, players on the fringes. Noah Anderson is on the fringes after previously being in our top 15.
Love it.
This guy potentially gets to the fringes, Sam Walsh. I'm just going to put him on the radar because he had a really good performance in his first game back. Number 1 out, which could be... Get your fingers ready. Errol Goulden is out of the top 15 players in the league. He's been hurt by the bye. The Swans are negative by the bye.
No, he lost to
But
the
I'll
bye.
explain because there's a play that's coming in and I think he really deserves it. Tier number 5. Zach Merritt holds his spot. Tom Green, with another quiet game, has now moved down to the 5th tier.
Quiet compared to what we expect of him at this point.
Exactly. And he was, just keep in mind, he started in the 2nd tier. He's now in the 5th tier. Tom Stewart, good game, holds his place. Zach Butters holds his place. And a new in. He only played about 5 minutes in the game. Your man, Sam Taylor, is now in our top 15. I know he's going to be out for a few weeks. It's going to be tough for him to hold his spot.
This is Sam Taylor's league.
But
this is Sam Taylor's league.
In those first 5-10 minutes, he was so dominant. Even when he wasn't on Max King, it felt like he was on Max King. That's how dominant he felt.
It's Sam Taylor's league. Well, we're just watching it.
He is now in the pyramid in the 5th tier. The 4th tier, we have a surprise coming. Kerno keeps his spot. Sarong keeps his spot. Cripps keeps his spot. Marcus Bontempelli's down 2 tiers. He's now in the 4th tier.
Oh no, he's lost to his ankle.
He has lost to his ankle. He had another very average game, poor by his standards. Marcus Bontempelli.
Yeah, I'm not really sure what happened there, to be honest.
Last 2 weeks, hasn't been amazing. You can only hold that spot once with an average game. 2 average games, forget it.
Yeah, the pyramid is the elite of the elite.
The
It's
4th
the elite
tier,
of the elite.
Nick Dacos, he's holding his spot in the 3rd tier.
Yep.
Lockie Neal is holding his spot in the 3rd tier. Moving up 2 tiers, Connor Rozee is moving up 2 tiers.
Okay, no, there's such a... Okay, complaints.
Okay,
Yeah,
Connor Rozee is moving up 2 tiers. He was a new in last week. He's now moving up 2 tiers. I absolutely love the Blokes game. Maybe it's an exaggeration, but I decided he's moving up 2 tiers. Connor Rozee is now in the 3rd tier. Okay, I know your complaint is going to be something about Zach Butters. I don't care. Connor Rozee
It
is in the
has
3rd
nothing to
tier.
do with it. Continue.
In the 2nd tier, moving down off the pedestal, Christian Petrarca
Ooh.
was absolutely taken off the game. To hold your spot at number 1, you have to be elite every single week.
There's no wiggle room.
No wiggle room high. Bont moved down 2 tiers, just remember that. Joining him in the 2nd tier, moving up a tier is Max Gawn. Another great game from Max Gawn. Yes, their side didn't get over the line. He did his absolute best, put up great numbers. I have no issues moving him up, and I assume you don't either. In number 1, loving the bye. The two players, Petrarca was at the top. Bont was right behind Petrarca, but no! They've both moved down. Heaney's number 1. Isaac Heaney's the best player in the competition.
DD!
Heaney! Okay. Is now the best player in the competition. He is the number 1 player in my pyramid.
I love that. He's been the best player this season. Can't knock him.
It was just tough to move him up, and now I feel like there's a reason. Go on. Read the complaints.
I only have 2 complaints.
Okay.
I love Heaney at the top, actually. 1, you think I'm going to praise you for putting Sam Taylor in your pyramid. He needs to be higher. This is the best defender in the league.
Okay. In my defense, he played about 5 minutes. There was every reason for him not to be in the pyramid.
In that 5 minutes, I'm still giving him 1-2 Brownlow votes.
Last week, I said one more good performance, he's in the pyramid. He played 5 minutes, and he's in the pyramid because I loved his game in that 5-10 minutes.
Can I tell you something?
There is no... Okay, who are you going to put him above Kerno, Sarong, Cripps, or Bont?
Can I tell you how good that 5-10 minutes was?
Yeah, I know.
Wait, let me finish. Not only did Max King not touch it during that 5-10 minutes, he was so affected mentally, he didn't touch it for the rest of the game. Got injured.
I know, and for that reason, he was in the pyramid. He joined the top 15 off 5 minutes.
Complaint 2.
Go on.
The Connor Rozee pick in tier 3. He's a great player.
Yes.
He's a great player, but has he done anything to deserve to be called, a top 6 player in the league? No. The reason you've put him in there is very biased. He's the only thing holding your Supercoach team together. You have about 7 blokes injured, blokes getting subbed off, blokes just not finding any footy. And Connor Rozee has been phenomenal the last 2 weeks and is holding your Supercoach team together. And there is such an emotional bias with how connected you are to your Supercoach team. He wouldn't be in the pyramid if he wasn't in your Supercoach team.
I'm going to disagree with that, just on camera. But he's
then
now
agree off camera.
A top 6 player in the league. Not sure how long it's going to stay. It depends on his Supercoach performance next week.
He's a phenomenal player. Rozee and Butters are so explosive that they move so
But
well.
I love changes in the pyramid.
I love it too.
I love it. If it stayed the same each week, we wouldn't even bother with the segment.
Very
Move
good
on
pyramid.
to our next segment. Potentially the people's favourite.
The power rankings.
The power rankings. And after the last week of not many shifts, I think there's going to be quite a few shifts this week.
Yeah, there were very small shifts last week, and this week there are a couple of big ones.
Do it.
In number 18, we have a new number 18.
I didn't think we were going to see a new number 18 the whole year.
It's very clear that the West Coast have earned their way up. They've climbed the ladder. We're putting North Melbourne there. Yes, I'm excited by a lot of players on their team, but good God, do they play awful footy week in, week out. In number 17, Hawthorn.
Not West Coast again.
Not West Coast again. I mean, neither of these teams have won a game, and neither of these teams have come close to winning a game. Actually, Hawthorn came very close against Collingwood. However, West Coast.
Okay. I like it.
They've won a game.
Let's ride the West Coast wave.
Not only have they won a game, they won by about 40.
Shout out to the West Coast fans for showing up every single week, by the way. Averaging about 45 to 50,000.
It is actually unreal, because this has been an extended period of them being Garbaggio. Now into 15, we have a team dropping down a spot, or dropping down 2 spots, and that's Richmond. After a couple... Richmond, I think, had some momentum where... Yes, they had a very poor start. They've had a very poor start to the season, except they've been very close in a lot of games. Carlton round 0, who are a very good team. They were very close to Sydney. They were very close to, and we sort of thought, maybe they are a very competitive team. They just lost by 40 to West Coast, and yes, their midfield's depleted. But even when the midfield's healthy, it's very, very poor.
They were also up by about 25 points in the first quarter as well.
Yeah, 27-2.
Yeah, something like that.
And now we're going to move on to number 14. Going up a spot is the Crows.
They CROMMED Carlton.
They mixed up their midfield. They got some energy. They got some aggression and flow back, which they had last year when they were the highest scoring team in the home and away season.
They've completely missed that at the start of their season.
Absolutely. And they got a spark from changing some things around. They changed the right things around. In number 13, I have... the Western Bulldogs going down 3 spots.
Oh, wow.
What?
3 spots.
What? Yeah, no, they were horrible against Essendon. What do I even say about that? I've ranted about Bevo.
They got edged.
I reckon that's the main problem. Oh, something I wanted to talk about. I should have chatted with Bevo. I'm sorry about this. He had a press conference after the game, and he seemed to be talking these cryptic comments about how the people need to be managing the expectations of the list. These really cryptic words which... if you read between the lines, seem to say our list. I don't think our list is as good as potentially stakeholders at the club and the fans think it is. Like, the fans have these high expectations. I don't know if he was suggesting that they should have a rebuild or something. I thought it was kind of outrageous. They have a really talented list.
Are we looking at the same list?
Are we looking at the same list?
All Australian ruckman, best player probably in the competition.
In my mind.
Tom Liberatore, potentially a top 15, top 20 player in the competition.
You have Darcy, Norton and Ugle-Hagan, 3 key forwards.
Cody Waitman's a great small who plays tall.
Yeah. And they've Liam Jones, who's emerged in defence, and guys like Ed Richards is fantastic. Like, they have talent all over the ground. I wouldn't say they have the best depth, but they do have talent, like really good top-end talent everywhere. And I think Bevo is the problem, to be honest, if I'm speaking bluntly. Now, down one spot, losing to the bye is Collingwood. Not much to be said, but yeah, they've not had a good start to the season, won the last couple, and they're going to have to keep climbing their way up slowly because they've been very unimpressive. Now,
they have Port next week as well. Massive game at the MCG.
Huge game. Jeez, that would have gone off in round 16 last year. The top 2 teams in the league. Okay. Now in number 11, going down 3 spots, St Kilda Saints.
Poor past few weeks, St Kilda.
Poor past few weeks. Yes, they lost to GWS by 1, who have been at the top of the power rankings all year. However, they scored a lot of goals late when GWS seemed to have switched off. And
what do we say each week? Garbage time goals.
It wasn't necessarily garbage time because they could have won it.
Was it Peatling?
James Peatling.
James Peatling took a Leo Barry style mark in the end to save them, but still, they only scored goals in the last quarter.
Yeah, you can't play that way for 3 quarters, and you can't score that few points every single week and expect to be higher than 11th on the esteemed ChatChit power rankings.
Yeah.
Then now up 2 spots in 10 is Brisbane.
I like it.
Big win against Melbourne. The way that Brisbane and Collingwood started the year, what we saw of the grand final hangover last year, where Geelong and Sydney were never able to recover to their grand final best, I'm going to make Collingwood and Brisbane have to earn it. I'm not going to react too hard to what was a fantastic win by Brisbane against a full-strength Melbourne side. Yes, it was fantastic. Let's see it consistently, and they can climb their way up the pyramid.
The next 3 games are Geelong, GWS, and Gold Coast. So huge tests coming up for them as well.
Huge tests coming up, and we're about to see a team in a minute here that has an even tougher test coming up. I don't know if you know who I'm talking about, but an incredibly tough fixture on. And at number 9, we have keeping their spot Gold Coast. A great win against Hawthorn. They do look really good.
I like it.
And I like them keeping their spot.
And we will be at that game as well.
Yes. And in number 8, going down 1 spot, Freo. Tight loss. Tough to go down 1 spot, but it's a dog-eat-dog world out here.
Damn, if the last 5 minutes of the last 2 weeks go differently, they're probably top 4 in your power rankings.
Absolutely. I think Freo are a really good team. I think they're a balanced... I want to say balanced team. They don't have enough firepower in their forward line. Josh Tracy had a great game. I don't know if we're going to see that every week. Jai Miss is a really good player. Hasn't been at his best to start the year, but I think he will get there. He has it all there. He just needs to put it together.
Still only 20 or 21 as well.
Yeah, he's a great player. But they don't have enough firepower in their key forwards and even their small forwards up there. The loss of Lockie Schultz was big.
Yeah.
And if they can show up and find something in their forward line, find a gem, like say Josh Tracy plays that way consistently, I think they can be a top 4 side.
Or potentially when Darcy comes back and Luke Jackson pushes forward.
That might be the spark they need. And I've just realised I forgot Essendon. Essendon slot into 12. Everyone who I've just named after that goes up 1 spot. So Fremantle keeping their spot in 7th.
And here was me thinking Essendon were going to be a top 4 side from 14th last week.
I
was waiting for it.
They had a very good game.
I was going to say something, but I thought the Essendon edge was going to push them a bit higher.
Had the magnet sitting on the floor. What can I say? Okay, now in number 6 we have moving down 3 spots.
3 spots.
Drastic
changes in the ChatChit power rankings.
The Melbourne Demons, now are they a team that should be in 6th spot? No. But there's... I'm going to start naming teams. Tell me who should be below Melbourne. Carlton.
Fair.
They're 5-1, Melbourne's 4-2. Carlton look good. Yes, they just lost a game to Adelaide, but undefeated before that point.
Yeah.
In 4th, the Sydney Swans.
I like it. Holding their spot.
The bye doesn't have any effect on them. They hold their spot. And we know that, I reckon, when it really comes down to it, if we take aside current form, the teams I think are most likely to get there come the end of the year, It's GWS and Swans. The two
Massive
Sydney teams.
game against Gold Coast coming up.
Yep. Then we have Port in third. And I want to go back to Carlton, which I wanted to talk about earlier, the tough run. I want you to read out Carlton's next 6 games.
Next 6 games?
Next 6 games.
Okay. GWS.
Where?
At home.
Yep.
Geelong. Away. Oh, it actually is at the MCG.
GWS undefeated. Geelong undefeated.
Collingwood at the MCG.
Premiers.
Melbourne at the MCG.
Great team.
Swans at the SCG.
Swans toughest team to play at home for the last couple of years.
Gold Coast at Marvel.
Yeah, that's the next 6 games.
Port Adelaide at the Adelaide Oval.
Wow.
And then they've got the Essendon Edge.
Who you never know what you're going to get from Essendon.
Yeah.
But look at that run that Carlton have. We're going to get a real idea of whether Carlton are 2 or 3 side or 1 side, or if they're really a side that should be put 8 or 9 in this pyramid. Sorry, in these power rankings.
I like it.
Then Port in 3. Now that we've put them here, a fantastic showing.
I've just realised who's going to be above them. Who's moving up quite a few spots in the power rankings.
I'm trying to stay happy for as long as I can before I have to talk about second. But Port Adelaide, they're a really good team. And the fact that they have such strong key defenders now that seem to be working really well together in Alir, Radic Alir,
Zerk
Thatcher, it's really nice. And Charlie Dixon back healthy. He got locked up by Alex Pearce, if we're being honest.
But took a massive mark at the end of the game as well. To be fair, I liked his what he said after the game.
Which is that he knew Alex Pearce
Absolutely locked him down. You don't hear that a lot from players.
Yeah, Alex Pearce, we can give him a shout out, on track for an All-Australian, I reckon.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
Between him, Sam Taylor and Luke Ryan, who's on his team, they've probably been the best 3 key backs. And now, in second place... I'll do it.
Yeah. You
Geelong
can leave
Cats.
them off if you want.
The Geelong Cats are in second place.
Why are they good again?
Wait, to be fair, they played North. They're not that good. They've had a soft run. They're 5-0, but
they haven't played. I don't think any of the top 8 at the moment.
We'll reward the 2 teams that are undefeated by putting them 1 and 2. So GWS got first. They are the best team in the competition this year, I reckon, and they're the team to beat. That's the power rankings for after round 5.
That's fair enough. And moving on to our final segment of the week, just a little wrap up of Supercoach, and I want to kick us off. Because I've had potentially the most awful week of decision making and player performances. I just want to point this out.
What was your score in the end?
I don't want. Okay, it was. I think it was 1,887.
Okay,
it was poor. But anyways, I want to talk through my ins this week. Okay, I was umming and ahhing between Clohessy and Tom Brown this week. Do you know what Tom Brown got in the game?
19.
29.
Oh.
I had Clohessy in.
I was thinking of Lafau.
I had Clohessy in with 20 minutes to go until lockout. But no, I decided I want points on field. What did Clohessy go and get? 124 or something?
Yeah, 124.
Okay, I'm going to move on. LDU, shocker again. 87, shocker for him. Matt Crouch saved himself in the last 10 minutes of the game. Got a 91. We expected at least 100.
At least Colby McKercher saved you.
Colby McKercher played about 5 minutes and got 6 points.
At least Bevo didn't sub Riley Sanders.
He almost wasn't the worst of the week. Okay?
Go to the worst.
Jai Clark, 2 points. He wasn't on field. He was on the bench hoping for cash gen. Jai Clark, 2 points.
Can I say something? You're going to say Colby McKercher was the worst. At least everyone has him.
I'm getting there. Luke Jackson, poor by his standards, a 72. Dempsey was okay with a 56. Harley Reid, awesome. Max King, the best possible thing happened to him in that game was Sam Taylor got injured.
By the way, if you're a listener and you have any brain right now, the first thought you should have is, did you just say you have Max King in your Supercoach team? Who ever thought that was a good idea? And how can you blame anyone but yourself?
He made me really good cash last week, but this week he got a 9. His break even was 36 and he's going down. He's going down in price.
Probably 15k.
I have to bring in Clohessy, Graham and Comden, and I have about 8 players I need to take out.
For me, as I've said to you this week, it's a swinging doors moment for me. When it comes to the Bulldogs, either Bevo goes or Sanders goes. I don't want to ruin your sad moment, but I had a solid week. I had 2011. Stats haven't come out, but I'm guessing that'll be a top 6-7% round. It wasn't fantastic.
Yeah.
It wasn't
I
fantastic.
agree with that. I'd probably be top 6 or 7, maybe top 10.
But
definitely top 10%.
Yeah, really feel bad for you if you don't have the Shees, 160 points. Feel bad for you if you don't have Max Gawn, but at least you get some reprieve next week when he has a bye.
You know why I had Tom Brown instead of Clohessy? Because I wanted points on field. Thank you for listening to our round 5 summary podcast, ChatChit. We'll see you on the next one.